Hello, my name is Jamie and welcome to this tutorial. Today we're going to continue on with the animation project. We're going to continue by making some more assets, or one more asset. We're making the chair. As you can see, I've already got it modelled here. So I'm going to put this blend file up for download. You can find a link in the description of the video. But if you want to do the modelling yourself, then if you've already done the table modelling tutorial that I've got up, then you'll have more than enough knowledge to make this little guy. So yeah, all we need to do now is texture him. Feel free to download so you can get off to the same starting point. We need to make a seat and we need to texture it. So we've already made a wood texture for the table. And it'd be smart to have the wood in the chair actually matching that wood. So what we can do is go File and then Link, and if you go to the table.blend in your assets folder and then go to Material and select Wood, we can actually link that in from the other file, and what that lets us do is just apply it to the object. It may or may not show up in the viewport. Yep, you can see it in the viewport. I've already UV unwrapped this model so you can see the wood texture showing up, and if we just hit F12 quickly to render, you can see that the wood's showing up fine. The tops of these areas, and I think the bottoms aren't unwrapped very well, but they're not really going to be visible to the camera at any point, so it's not really too much of a worry, but feel free to go in and fix that if you want to. So with that sort of technique we can actually create separate blend files with just a texture or just a material in it, and then you can just link in through that way. So you can have a whole library of different materials that you can quickly access, so you don't have to create the same things over and over again. And so for the seat of the model, let's go back to solid view. For the seat of the chair, we'll quickly model that in now, and then we'll go into a separate file to create the actual material that we'll put on it. So I'll just turn on my screencast keys and go Shift A, and I'll just bring in a cube and I'll scale it down in edit mode, bring it up here and just bring this top bit down. For the modelling of the chair, if you want to use the same reference that I did, all I did was a Google image search for wooden chair, and the first image that came up is the one that I decided to use. It's just a simple little wooden chair, and we're going to have a little leather seat on the top of it. So just scale that in the x-axis that way, and scale this in the x-axis, so that it's just sort of peeking over the edge, and bring this forward a bit. Now bring that, select everything, scaling the x a bit just to bring things out a bit, and I'll bring this bit forwards as well, so that's sort of sitting just over the top. Now at the moment it's just a big square chunk. So we'll just add in a subdivision surface modifier, and then we'll do some loop cuts to sort of reinforce a bit to make it a bit more square. So now I might undo that. I'm just going to put one there and one there for right now, and then one around the edge. So I don't want it sitting too much over there, so I'll just go into wireframe mode, box like that and bring that up a bit, because I want it to be sitting just on top of the wood. So now bring the top section up. So right now it's still a bit rounded, so we'll need to do a little bit of edge reinforcement. Which actually, yeah, we might do anyway. So now after doing that, it's a bit too square. So I'm going to bring in an edge loop there with a Control R. And scale the top down a bit, just so there's a bit of a slope coming off. And these corners are very sharp, so I'm going to go into top view and just select these two vertices and scale them out a bit. Maybe bring that one in, and that's just going to unsharpen that a bit. We can even select these two and bring those out a bit. So I do want a bit of a point at the end, but not too much. And I'll do the same again here. Scale those out. Oops. Scale these guys out and maybe bring them in a bit. Bring that guy back. Now the edge flow isn't too important in this, so I'm not worrying about it. There's a bit of merging and stuff that I would normally do, but I'm not terribly worried. And I'm just going to do something with, because I've got sort of this extra edge here, so I'm going to scale that in a bit, just to soften the crease that was forming there. Now bring this up a bit as well. And we've got an alright looking chair. Now I'll just go straight on. I'm going to select all this and hit S, X and 0 just to flatten everything up. I'll just nudge it across a little bit. Now I'm just going to quickly mirror this, just using the mirror modifier. So I'm selecting all this and deleting all the vertices, and then we'll bring in a mirror modifier, turn on clipping, and then if we right click here and just move it around a bit, if it's not dead on the center it will wiggle around a little bit, but it will connect, so just make sure that connects, and that will do the merging and everything for you. So we've got that. Just make sure this upsurf is underneath the mirror modifier on the modifier stack, so that we don't get a crease going down the middle. And I'm going to scale in these bottom edges a little bit, create another loop, scale it out. I'm just trying to create sort of a lip, so I'll bring that down on the Z axis. That's a bit better. Now I'll select everything and go W and shade smooth. So now we've got a smoothed looking thing. So we've got an alright looking chair, just in grayscale. I'm going to apply the mirror modifier, and I'm going to alt right click on this edge here to select it all, go Control E, mark seam, double tap A just to select everything, and then U to unwrap. So it's unwrapped and ready for texturing. So I'm going to save that. And I'm just going to open up a new blend file. So to do the material, it's just a lot easier to have just what you need to be focusing on in one file. So I'm just going to scale this down to sort of about the same size that that chair cushion was, and then scale that down a bit, just so I've got a sort of a rounded similar shape to what I'm working with. Shade smooth, and so we can just start working on the material here. I'll do a little bit of edge reinforcement, just so I've got an edge to look at as well. And I might bring in another one there, so I've got a sharp edge, a sort of soft edge around here, and I'll do this and just scale up in the Z-axis. So I've just got a general smooth surface here as well, which is pretty much all the features of the leather seat cushion. So I'll bring this out a bit, because we'll be working in the material panel now. So we'll start by naming the material. It's going to be called leather. And first thing we'll do is we'll create a texture, and we'll just call it crackle. And this is sort of going to be the I think we want clouds. It's going to be the sort of creases and the wrinkles in the leather, and we want Veroni crackle. So we're going to bring down the size, not that much, just to 0.02, because I'll show you at 0.25. And that's really far away from the camera, so I'll just double tap Z whilst holding G, or after having pressed G. If you double tap Z, you'll zoom in. So you can see that's quite sort of large, the crackle and stuff. So lots of test renders just to see how it's progressing. And now I want this to be 0.02. Yep, 0.02. There we go. And we'll F12 so we can see it's a lot smaller now, the crackle. I'm going to increase the depth. It's not going to make a huge difference, but it just sort of adds a little bit, even if you can't notice it. Now I'm going to do a color ramp, just to get rid of that purple, and we want the colors to be sort of not completely black and white. So I'll just bring this sort of down from grey a bit, just so it's a little bit more even. And maybe bring this one forward a bit. Okay, so we've got that leathery wrinkle. I'll just set my render to HDTV 1080p so we can see a bit clearer exactly what's going on with the wrinkles there. So you can see it sort of looks like the leathery wrinkle, but it's just the colour that's being affected at the moment. So I'm going to just set it to affect the normal, turn off the colour. Sorry, turn off the colour, and then we'll hit F12 to see how that goes. So you can see that's looking okay. It's sort of quite deeply affecting all the wrinkles are sort of going in quite deep. You can just affect the amount that goes by adjusting this value here. So we'll just soften it up a bit, or you can bring it down to be really low, so it's just a very slight effect. In fact, I've got into the negative there, so it's raising out. So if I go very slight, yeah, so you got that. I'm just going to leave it at the default of 1, because I like it to look a bit stronger, and it might get a bit washed out by what we do with the rest of it. Okay, so we'll go actually set the leather color now. We'll set the actual shader model to Aranea, and that just sort of, you can't really see too much of a difference right now, but it just sort of changes the way that light is affected by this. And we want a sort of a browny colour, so something like that. So we've got something that sort of looks like leather. And we want a ramp on there. And I've found from my testing, if I swap these two over and I make this very sort of a dark grey, it just gives this slight effect to the actual shader, so you can sort of see it coming in around here a bit. It's quite dark in this scene, so I'll just set this to a hemi, and we can see a bit more. You can see how there's a colour here and there's sort of a different shade of it there. And I'll just turn that down a little bit. So we're up to there. Okay, so next we want to go to the specular. I'll set it to Fong. You can see the differences here. The Fong is just sort of it's slightly less intense. There is a significant difference, but it doesn't matter too much. I'm just going to bring this colour down to sort of a mid-grey, so that the specular highlight's not too strong, but you can see the specular coming in across here. So we're just going to add in a couple more textures. First one will be for some colour variation, and just some clouds are fine for that. We want to set the colour to about 0.5 and set it to multiply. Now if we hit F12 on that, you should be able to see there's some variations in colours just around the model, but it's not too strong, but it just adds a bit of interest to the actual model itself. And we can just bring the size down quite a bit if you want to see a bit more of an effect to that. And if you're still having trouble seeing very clearly, we can just crank that up. And so you can see it's kind of splotchy and sort of looks like that all over. So I just bring that down to a 0.5, so it's just a subtle effect that goes across the whole thing. And we want to add in, so it's a similar thing, but instead of a colour variation, it's a sort of a geometry variation, I suppose, or I'll call it bumpiness. And we're just going to affect the normal at about 0.4 to 0.5, and that just gives us a bit of a bumpiness to it. Adds in a little bit of variation to the geometry. This one I'll probably make a bit bigger in the actual size of the clouds. And so it's the sort of a subtle effect going across the whole thing. Again, if you really want to see exactly where all the variation is, you can see it like that. You can get a better idea for the size of what's going on. But I'll just bring that down to sort of just under 0.5. So I've got a little bit of variation going on. Now, what I did in my tests for the crackle, it's not affecting the colour, but it sort of looks like it is. So what my tests were like was I had actually a brown colour. It wasn't a very good brown colour. And then I had a sort of a light, or a sort of more orangey brown over here. And I think it's just the closeness of those colours that it sort of affects. You can see it's made all that quite a lot stronger. So I might... Oh, here we go. So if we can just affect the depth of the crackle by adjusting this anyway, without actually having to adjust the normal value. So you can sort of get it looking a lot easier how you want it here. Don't worry about putting a colour on there, it shouldn't affect it too much. Just have a sort of a grey and a light grey. And just one setting I just need to change is this one to add, and that should... it's not coming up as nicely as my tests did. I'll just pull up that file to show you. So this is the file I was testing with. I'll put up this for you to download as well, just so you can get the same leather texture as me. I'm pretty sure I got all the settings the same, but it just wasn't coming out quite the same. So you can see I've got the crackles coming up a lot more gentler, and there's just this nice sort of effect going across the actual leather itself. And it's a little bit lumpy, and it just looks really good. And you can see there's a little bit of variation sort of around as well in the colours, and that's all. It's very similar settings here. We've got the grey. Input normal. That might be what I'm missing. So that just makes things look worse. It's sort of similar, but the crackle is what's sort of annoying me the most. But we've got a good example of how it should look here. And you can see I haven't named these properly. I'll name them. I'll set all the naming conventions up properly for you. But we've got the crackle and all that going just into the normal. We've got the colour variation. We might want to... I don't think I had that ramp in there. Make sure that blend is set to multiply, and just the variation for the bumpiness, and that's set to normal. So I'll put this file up for you to download as well to pull apart and look at how the texture work. I think I might have just missed a couple of textures, a couple of settings somewhere. That's not quite getting me the results that I had earlier. So we've got that. So I've got that saved anyway, so I'll just close that off. I'm going to forget this one ever existed, and I'm going to open up this file again. So now we can go File, Link, and Project. Sorry, I had the file in the wrong directory. So now if I go into Link, I've got leather here, and I can just go Material and select that one, and then apply that one to the seat of the chair. And so if we go F12 now, we've got a leather seat and a chair. We might want to play with the shader settings a bit more just on the leather, because the lighting in this file is slightly different to that one, so we'll probably want to reduce the specular and play with the shader settings a little bit more. So in fact we'll do that now. We'll save that, and then we can open the leather file again. So again, we'll do a quick test render. So we know sort of what the problem was in that where the color variation sort of comes when it comes lighter in the shader, not in the actual color on the actual thing, but on the shader. It was getting very bright. So we'll go into the material settings here, and we might just play with this a bit. So I'm just sort of bringing that variation down a bit. We can still see the specular highlights going on, and I'll make sure I'm rendering nice and big so we can really see the details. So it's sort of getting a bit closer there. I'll bring that all the way in just to there, so it's just a very slight effect that you can sort of see coming up. And the specular I've got is pretty much black here. I might bring that up a little bit just to see, just so we can get actually no, I don't want a lot of specular. Just thinking about how leather generally looks on a chair that's sort of been worn a little bit. There might be a little bit of specular coming across it, but not too much. So we'll save this because we've affected the material here. And then if we go back into the chair file and we render, still looking a bit crap, but it's better than what it was. It might just be that we need to set it so there's no specularity at all on there. But for now, play with those settings and see what you can come up with. And I'll put these files up for you to download. And until next time, please subscribe. Like my videos, go to my Facebook page and like that as well. I'm thinking about how I'm going to do the actual animation portion of the series. I'm thinking of I'll put the question up on Facebook in a minute, but should I release it in one big chunk? So there'll probably be sort of between 10 to 20 videos that all come up at the same time, or I could do it continued on a weekly basis. There's positives and negatives to either way, but give me your feedback as to how you prefer your video tutorials to come to you. And so yeah, until next time, good luck and have fun. Sorry, just a quick addendum. So I just quickly fixed up what was really annoying me about that leather texture there. I've just put black and completely opaque on the left of this ramp in the Addendum shader, and then I've put a sort of a very dark grey here with alpha of 0, and then that just fades. So from black to this colour between those 2 points there. This is at about 0.4. And I can render it here quickly and that looks sort of nice. And then in the actual blend file, this is what it looks like. So there's so yeah, that's looking alright now. So yeah, I'll put up this final file as well for you to download, because I sort of chopped and changed quite a few settings as to what I originally planned, but that's okay. Experimenting is good. So yeah,